I'd like to introduce Miss Jessie Redmond Fauset, the new literary editor for The Crisis.
It's the 1920s, and Jessie Redmond Fauset is discovering young writers who will become Harlem Renaissance legends, while having a relationship with her boss, the civil rights activist W.E.B. Du Bois.
This arrangement between us has worked. Nina is his wife, and I am the woman who... The woman who what?
Her legacy had been lost in the shadows of history.
A history that's untold is a history that can be erased.
But now, author Victoria Christopher Murray brings her to life in the novel Harlem Rhapsody. It's Club Calvi's Reader's Choice.
Right now, CBS New York's Book Club with Mary Calvi.
Hello and welcome to our April meetup. We focus on fiction connected to the tri-state area. We got together recently with some of our readers to talk about our latest book, Harlem Rhapsody. They have plenty to say about the story. It takes place in the 1920s and is based on the life of a woman who discovered literary giants during the Harlem Renaissance, but she's been largely forgotten. We're going to talk to author Victoria Christopher Murray. And book club producer Danielle Parker will show questions and comments from our readers. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Mary. And what a conversation we had about this book. Harlem Rhapsody is about Jessie Redmond Fauset. She was the literary editor who discovered the writers Langston Hughes and Countee Cullen when they were teenagers. She gave advice to Zora Neale Hurston, but no one in our group had ever heard of Fauset until this book.
Did not want it to end, but I also couldn't stop reading it.
That she included the literature, the poetry, the letters. You were walking in her shoes, in Jessie's shoes.
We were very aware of Langston and Countee Cullen and Zora, but we had no idea of the woman who nurtured all of them.
To recognize Harlem and the Renaissance and the people behind it.
She really had her act together, you know, she was doing it. And then her personal life was just a mess.
Well, that mess, as we were calling it, was her affair with her boss, the civil rights legend W.E.B. Du Bois. And we've talked about how that may have affected Jessie's legacy, Mary.
Oh, it certainly did. And, you know, I was so fascinated, Danielle, to hear how the author discovered a hidden gem for a writer, a woman in history forgotten, but a woman who had plenty to say. To find her, the author did a deep dive into a pivotal era in American history. The era was transformative, an explosion of intellectual and creative thinking. The Harlem Renaissance marked a pivotal moment within the African-American community.
This is the gift of Harlem. The dress, the music, the language. It isn't possible to live here and not begin to breathe and bleed this place.
And author Victoria Christopher Murray embraced it for her newest novel, Harlem Rhapsody, Club Calvi's Reader's Choice.
The music enraptures me first. I can't sleep at night. I can't eat or bite. From a Victrola perched near an opened window, the lyrics from Harlem Blues float down.
I moved into Harlem.
And tell me why that was so necessary for you.
To be part of it. I know it was 100 years ago, but I think, like, the streets here in Harlem, I've been all over the world. The streets pulse. They pulse with an energy. I say they have stories.
Few have more stories than her, author of 36 books, including co-authoring The Personal Librarian, plus novels Stand Your Ground, Lust, Envy, Wrath, Greed, and Pride. And before any of these were written, the research. She spent day after day in the archives of the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture in Harlem, one of New York Public Library's renowned research libraries. It's a world-leading cultural institution devoted to research, preservation, and exhibition. And in fact, where she launched Harlem Rhapsody.
You know, I was sitting on the stage and looking out into the crowd, and it just looked so big. And this was the place where I wanted to do a book signing so badly. Mary, I wanted to bring Jessie Redmond Fauset home. I wanted to bring her home.
Jessie Redmond Fauset, a name most have never heard of, but a woman who spent her life elevating writers and publishing writers. One of them, Harlem's legendary poet Langston Hughes, whose words are etched in the Schomburg Center.
I'm just looking at this one line. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it.
Yes, so his point is that Black people were there everywhere from the beginning of time.
And as we toured this fine institution, we found inspiration everywhere, including the hallways.
Like as we're walking through this beautiful hall of artwork, this kind of feels like you, because you are able to create these beautiful works.
With nothing, and I often marvel at that. I often marvel at the fact that I started with 300 empty pages, and that by the time I finish, that they're filled with words.
It's a piece of art, really.
It is, and it's just part of the gift that I've been given. It's nothing that I can explain how I'm able to create it. And especially with these stories, it's like the story's there. I just have to go and find it.
Victoria Christopher Murray, thanks so much. It was just such a pleasure spending so much time with you at the Schomburg Center. And now I get to spend more time with you here. I really wanted, first of all, congratulations on being named the Reader's Choice.
And thank you so much. This has been so exciting for me.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I know our readers have had so much time, really, and such a good time just kind of getting into all of your research and your writing, which is such a beautiful narrative about a woman who I just can't believe has been hidden in the archives all this time. I mean, how could that be?
How could it be when she discovered all the people that we know? This whole literary canon that we have of Black literature started with her. And it's amazing. But somebody once said, she was an editor, and most people don't know our editor's names. So that's one reason. But she was also the writer of 4 novels during the Harlem Renaissance, so I don't know how we didn't know her.
Well, we know her now,
yes,
thanks to you. How much research did it take to bring her to life?
I spent probably about 3 months just reading everything from the biographies about W.E.B. Du Bois. It wasn't anything about her, but she was in his book, of course. And then reading all the letters and the scholarly articles that were at the Schomburg, which was the 135th Street Library at the time, the Library of the Harlem Renaissance. So I was able to just read. And the thing that was so interesting about Harlem Rhapsody is that it wasn't just her story. It was a story of Langston Hughes, Countee Cullen, Nella Larson. So I had to read up on all of them.
I mean, true legends. Really.
I know.
In so many cases, and I experience this myself, when you're looking into women's stories, so many of their words are lost because they've never been preserved.
Yes.
Whereas when you're researching a man, so much of theirs has been
preserved.
Held. So in this case, tell me about Jessie. Were her words there for you to find?
Yes, the words were there. They were just hidden. And the words did appear in the men's stories. Her words appeared in stories about Elaine Locke, and Langston Hughes talked about her, and W.E.B. Du Bois, because they were expected to become legends, but she was not. 100 years ago, women didn't even have careers. They were like, no, that's not your place. I always kid around that half of the misogynists on earth at the time were women who felt like, no, this is not our place. And so she stepped forward, but I don't know if the world was ready for her at the time, and that's why her words were just hidden.
Well, now is definitely the time, Victoria. Right now, I want to go to Danielle to see what the readers have to say.
Yeah, it's definitely her time now. And in fact, during our meetup, we talked a lot about how much territory Harlem Rhapsody covered. I mean, Victoria just talked a little bit about it. There were the people in the book. There were their relationships. Victoria captured the feel of living in the 1920s in Harlem, what it was like for Jessie to be working in that environment. So here's Denise's question.
Was your greatest challenge in writing this book?
The greatest challenge, it's such a great question for me. It was just a blank page.
Yeah.
But you're a writer's writer, so I'm so curious as to what that answer might be.
Yes, and so the question was...
your greatest challenge
and
this.
the greatest challenge wasn't the research. It was what I found in the research. And so when I found out about their affair, that was the greatest challenge for me, because I didn't want something salacious to overcome all of their extraordinary accomplishments. And so that was how I was going to handle it. I thought about not including the affair at one point, but I said if I was going to write a biographical novel, I could not hide an important part of it. And so I had to just determine how I was going to handle it.
Well, for a writer, too, when you find a secret, it
I
definitely
know.
helps in creating the character. But I can understand what you were dealing with, that kind of internal struggle as to how you wanted to present her to the world.
Yes, and that, because this was going to be the first time that people were going to hear, a lot of people were going to hear about her. And so I did not want the affair to be what people remembered, because she had accomplished so much more. But I couldn't leave it out. It was part of her story.
It did make me wonder why such a brilliant woman in her professional career was kind of having such trouble in her personal life.
I think she had the relationship she wanted. She did not want a husband. She certainly didn't want W.E.B. He would cheat, so she didn't want him. But she wanted a career more than she wanted a relationship. And he was perfect for her in that realm. Just not the perfect person to even have an affair with sometimes, I guess. I don't know.
Well, Danielle has some more questions from the readers.
Okay.
Get ready for them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Danielle.
that's an interesting point, because she was focused on her career. She had talent. She was smart as a whip. And she came across as a woman who was liked and respected. But there were some people in the book who apparently did not find her charming. One of them was a woman named Mary White Ovington. She was chair of the board of the NAACP. So Jatola wanted to know more about her.
Why did Mrs. Ovington have such disdain for Jessie? From the moment they met, she just had this animosity, this ugliness towards her. And I have my theory, but I'd like to hear from Victoria herself. What was the reason?
It's such a good question. I was wondering the same thing, because it was immediate.
It was immediate, right? First, I want to tell you a little bit about Mary White Ovington. If there was a mother of the NAACP, she was it. It was her idea. It started as the Niagara movement and moved into the NAACP, but she really believed in equality for all the races. So I wanted to set that out there about her. She was really a good person, a nice person. But she saw that young woman come in that office, and she knew Jessie would be there every single day. She didn't like that.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if maybe she got a clue quickly about maybe the affair.
I think so, too. I think she may have known about his other affairs.
Good point. I think a few women were not so happy with Jessie, including the woman who took on her role as mother.
Yes, her mother. That was the woman who raised her. And none of them were happy that she was having an affair with a married man. None of them. But I think Mary Ovington, it was because she was friends with W.E.B. Du Bois' wife.
Oh boy, wasn't that a moment when they came together, the wife and the mistress?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, you know.
They came together a couple of times.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, at that first meeting, I said, oh boy, are they going to go to lunch? What are they going to talk about? Yeah. But you also wrote in a way that the world wasn't happy about the affair, too, in the way you narrated the story.
Yes. Well, I would think that most people wouldn't be. I didn't have anything in the letters that said people weren't happy, but I'm just thinking about human nature. Sure. And I had letters between Mary Ovington and Jessie, so I knew they didn't like each other. And I had to just suppose that's what it was, surmise that's what it was. But I don't think most people were happy about the affair.
It is such an experience when you find actual letters to really be so close to their words. It's very intimate in a way.
It is, because you're close to their words. You know what they sound like. You know what their thoughts are. You know, I told my daughter, burn everything I have after reading all of these letters, all of them. I had letters from Langston, letters from Jessie, letters from W.E.B. So
no,
you really get into their world.
We want all your letters. no, those we want. We're going to take a quick break, but we have so much more to talk about. We'll be right back.
Going back to Jessie, how we have never heard of her.
Yeah, no.
What are some of your thoughts as to why that was?
I think just her gender, because the focus during that period was on the men.
She may also have been held down by W.E.B. Du Bois.
I believe that he hid a lot about her purposefully.
Her affair would then taint his image.
He loved her very much, but he loved his cause more. And I think for anything to outshine the cause he's fighting for would take away from what he was doing.
So many good points from our readers. I wonder what you thought as you were going through this research and discovering her.
You know, I thought he helped her because she got to New York, and even though I believe he had her there just to be close, she turned it into a movement. She turned it into something we know. But she wasn't going to go further. She was only going to go as far as he would allow it to go. So he helped to bring her there, but he also put a cap on what she was going to do.
Oh, there you have it. I mean,
Yeah.
I love a book that keeps me thinking even after that last page, and Harlem Rhapsody certainly did that for all of us. It was really sensational in the way you were able to just keep us so curious as to what was going to happen next with her and who she was going to discover next. And as those names kept popping up, I wonder for you, were you surprised when you realized how many people she helped elevate?
I couldn't believe it was everybody. Like,
It was everybody.
Like, how can it be everybody? You know, yes, maybe you discovered Langston and County, but then Nella and Gwendolyn and and the list just kept going on. And at the very end, at that last party, when Zora showed up, I was like, this is it. There's no one left. There's nobody left.
She did it all.
She did it all.
Or we're going to check back with our book club members, and Daniel has more from them.
I do. Mary and Victoria, you know, there was one other person in the book who readers thought made a big impact, and that was W.E.B. Du Bois's wife, Nina. Whenever she appeared on the scene, the tension just cranked up. After all, there was that little thing about the affair. So Cindy has this question.
I would love to hear Nina's story because I feel like there's so much of her that she was just in and out. And I would love to know, what was she experiencing during that time?
Yeah.
Great question, right? Because she's the wife. So what did she know? You know, in biography, the biography about W.E.B. Du Bois, he talks about Nina not only knowing about the affair, but befriending several of the women that he had affairs with. And that's something difficult for me to understand with my 21st century eyes. I had to kind of put on my 20th century glasses and realize this was 100 years ago. Women had a very different role at that time, including they couldn't even get an apartment lease in their names. So it was a different time. Husbands were not going to leave their wives. Wives were not leaving their husbands. They had that relationship. And Nina seemed to understand that, appreciate her role, and know that she was always going to be his wife. She knew that.
As you spoke about 100 years ago, I'm thinking 100 years ago, Harlem. I mean, that must have been such a wonderful journey for you to explore.
It really was. I spent a lot of time in Harlem as I was writing this book, because I said the streets just kind of pulse with their own stories. But 100 years ago, it was so interesting because the Harlem Renaissance happened just 50 years after emancipation. So this was the first time that African Americans were looking in the mirror and looking in their eyes and saw some kind of pride. And that was coming through at that time in everything they did.
You know, it's interesting that you said that, because as I was going through the archival footage of the Harlem Renaissance, there is just such celebration. Yeah. I mean, just everyone was smiling. It was just a great time.
And it comes through even in the pictures, right? Even the pictures come alive. And I think it was because that was the first time. as Black Americans, they were feeling a sense of belonging, even with everything that was still going on in the world, but they saw their own contributions. This group that is in this book, they were the most educated. When you think about it, just 50 years after the end of slavery, W.E.B. Du Bois had a doctorate from Harvard University. He was the most educated Black person in the country. And so there was so much pride in their accomplishments, and they saw so much pride in what they could do in the future.
And for Jessie, I feel like she took such pride in the position that she had, and she understood her place, that she needed to do everything she could to raise other voices, including female voices, too.
She was big on that, but she understood legacy. I think she paid attention to everyone else's legacy except for her own.
Good point. We have one last question from our book club, so I want to get back to Danielle.
Those points are excellent, and talking about legacy and Jessie and how much she did, because in fact they say it's good to leave readers wanting more, and Diane wants to know more about another literary legend who Jessie advised. Here's her question.
Was it because there wasn't very much information on Zora Neale Hurston to expand the information in the book about her, because there was just a little snippet and a mention of Zora Neale Hurston. And I know she was a really big influence during the Harlem Renaissance. I just wondered why there wasn't more on her.
It was such a beautiful moment to meet her.
I know, and that was the thing. I didn't want to do a cradle to the grave story, so I just chose the years when Jessie was responsible for the Crisis magazine. That's when she discovered everyone. And so she didn't meet Zora until the end, until that party. That's where they really met. That's where she met Langston Hughes. And so that was the only reason. I didn't want to switch the timeline and bring her in sooner because I think it would have upset the balance of what really happened. So that was the only reason. I wish I could have had more. It's just that Jessie did a lot with Zora outside of the timeline of the book.
Yeah, you just needed another 100 pages from
I know,
your editor.
Yeah, I know.
Can you tell us what you're working on next? I'm sure you are working on something next.
Yes. Well, I just turned in my third novel with Marie Benedict, so our third collaboration. We don't have a real title for it yet. We're thinking about calling it The Lynchpins, but it's about a Black woman and a white woman and the mob.
Tell me about that collaboration. It has been so successful.
It
for
has.
both of you.
Yes, the collaboration started with the personal librarian onto the first ladies, and I love writing with Marie. You have to have a writing soulmate, so it has to be somebody where you could say, no, we're not going to put this in, and no one's going to take it personally because we're trying to write the best book. But it is a joy writing with Marie.
And it's a joy to read your writing with Marie. It really is. How does that writing process take place? Are you writing a little? Is she writing a little? Are you on Zoom together, in person together? I love hearing all of it.
All of the above. What we do is we talk over the whole arc of the story, and then we break it up into chapters. And depending on what the chapter is, she will write the first draft, or I would write the first draft, and then we switch.
How about
and we just put in, and we have different strengths and weaknesses, because in the first, the personal librarian, I had been writing contemporary fiction. So there were plenty of times when I wanted Belle to say to J.P. Morgan, "What's up, dude?" And that did not work in early 20th century language. And so Marie would come in with her. So we help each other. And I love having someone to discuss everything with. That's the best part of the collaboration for me.
Well, it has been such a joy to talk with you.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you so much for a beautiful book, and we can't wait to read the next one.
Oh,
really.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me as a reader's choice.
Oh, and our readers loved it too. Harlem Rhapsody has been our book, and it's been such a wonderful month for us, really, to dive in. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you so much.
And we're getting ready for even more Club Calvi in 2025. More on that when we come back. Our readers made a great choice this month.
Great choice. We had a blast.
Yeah, it was a great read and also a wonderful history lesson, too. So I really enjoyed it. Both of them, yes. And it's almost time for our next read. The next round of Fic Picks comes out Tuesday, April 15th. They include some of the most anticipated books of the spring.
That's right. It's going to be really tough for you guys to vote because all of them are worth reading. So be sure to watch Mary's announcement on Tuesday morning. After that, you can click on clubcalvi.com to read the excerpts, get the books, and vote.
We'd love for you to join our Facebook group and be part of our book discussions. Just scan the QR code on your screen to get sent directly to our page. We also have the info on clubcalvi.com. And we can't wait to see which book you choose next. We'll see you soon for our next meetup.